You know, guys, we've talked a lot on this show about the recursive declination of critical social institutions in this country. And today's no different. I want to keep talking about it. The leftist movement, resplendent in its eternal state of metamorphosis towards the paradoxically utopian hellscape, gnaws like the world's most determined termite at the foundations of everything which we hold sacred and necessary to cohere as a forward-moving society. And in its wake, we tread upon the smoldering and broken institutions that once made us great and, God willing, will one day truly make us great again. I have to hold on to that. It might, but probably won't, shock you to know that marriage rates have plummeted 60% in this country since the year 1970. Now, the reason it might not come as a huge surprise is, of course, that we're all familiar with the trope that divorce rates have and continue to skyrocket in this country. We've all heard the, quote, half of all marriages in the United States fail statistic and have sadly come to accept that fact as de rigueur. So why would it come as any surprise that there is a concomitant lowering of the rate of people getting married in the first place? Nevertheless, it should shock us, and that to our very cores, because it is not merely an American thing to do, getting married. It's a human thing to do. For the entire length and breadth of human society, marrying and rearing children have not only been the dominant social convention, in fact, they've been the glue that has held the social fabric together and allowed us to grow both as a species and as soul-bearing individuals as well. The dichotomous nature of human gender has produced in us innate and generally well-defined gender roles, which function for thousands upon thousands of years to solidify and strengthen our tribes into societies and our societies into nations. Now, it's a given that there are and always have been elements on the edges of this edifice. Not everyone has always needed or wanted to get married, and we've understood that. Similarly, not all marriages work out. Boy, don't I know it. And we've understood that as well. But the fringe cases have only proved to be the exceptions to the general rule, which until fairly recently didn't even need to be a spoken one. And this, of course, is what the left cannot stand. And not only because gender roles are outmoded in their eyes, you'd be hard-pressed to find a direction more readily made for the pointing of a finger of blame than hard left. And it is precisely because the strong gravitational force generated by marriage in particular and the nuclear family in general stands as the greatest threat to the subversion of the dominant paradigm. Now, we spoke before on this program of the leftist fusion of nihilism and power. And if you really dig down, you'll find that this pairing is its own form of marriage for the left. And it's a marriage that brooks no competition from the real thing. Statistics show that conservative marriages tend to be happier. You ever wonder why? Generally speaking, conservative marriages have either God or something like God at their center. They have a value system. And what do you have at the center of the other side? Nothing but the glorious utopia that surely lies just beyond that next mountain we must cross as a society. And they never seem to get there. There lies the hopelessness and chaos. And as you know, we people of the book should strive to avoid such a thing becoming more mainstream than it even already is. Folks, there is very little more important to the reformation of this country, to the turning of its eyes back toward the visage of the God from whom all blessings flow, than marriage. It is not merely a consummation of earthly desires devoutly to be wished. It's a sacred bond we form with each other and with God, and without it, we will fall into the dust of history so fast you won't know what happened. We have to look to Chris in the room for a good marriage. That's what we have to do. He's the only one that can do it. He's the only one who can do it. I still believe in the institution of marriage. I do. Good. I believe in it. I believe in it. I have people who say, you better not ever get married again. Well, we'll see. I don't know. Maybe they're right. I still believe in it, man. Listen, I do believe in that value, that is the center of society. You know, government, small government, limited governments, they absolutely depend. If you want the framework of conservatism to work, it absolutely depends on the ability for an individual to be able to govern themselves and just by default govern their families, right? So you govern yourself, you govern your home, you govern your community, and so on it goes. but it starts with yourself and with your family. And if the two are one, when you have a husband and a wife, the biblical concept of marriage is the two becoming one entity. Then that is self-government when you manage that one unit, that husband and wife. And the idea that is somehow suspect, when for thousands of years of human history, millennia after millennia of human history, when it was just innate, natural, instinctual desire to be drawn towards companionship and even take it to the next level of covenant relationship, society has always been built on that. So, it's an increasing thing. People fall in love mysteriously, right? And then they seem to just as mysteriously fall out of love because we don't have any concept of what real love is. We don't have any concept of what real commitment is. And yes, I understand. Things happen. God knows I'm living proof of that. Things happen in relationships, and sometimes they become irreparable. And you try to move on without the nuclear explosion in the nuclear family. My first wife and I have an excellent relationship. We got the relationship that we have. We managed to raise 4 kids, not together, but in conjunction with one another. And those kids are very good now. They're very healthy. They're very smart. They're very wise. They're very successful. And they understand the value system because we at least held on to that, even though we weren't able to, stay together. It's a hard conversation to have, but I think we need to refresh ourselves on the values of society. We do. They're going to keep messing with us, man. They're going to keep messing with us and trying to tear down those traditional definitions of what society's all about. And boy, they are doing it. I don't need the Sam Brentons of the world stealing people's luggage, trying to define for me what glue holds society together. I mean, we're all screwed up individuals, and you get us together. I mean, we break apart, and we're fractured, and we mess up not only our own lives but the community around us a lot of times. But there's got to be those things in society that even though we are failed, fractured, scarred individuals, we can come back together and hold on to those things. I mean, look at what we're losing in America today. Our institutions are dead. You have no trust for the presidency, for the executive branch of the government. The government you don't trust. Law enforcement, by and large, especially on the federal level, you don't trust. The church you don't trust anymore. I had people, on yesterday's conversation saying, how do you know if you're in a good church? How do you know if you're in the right church? I saw it on the live chat, and people were asking, how do you know? Well, you judge not only churches, but believers by the fruit they bear. Jesus said you'll know them by their fruit. That's not signs and wonders and miracles. It's not that kind of thing, because even in Matthew chapter 7, Jesus is going to say, hey, you're going to be those who did all these great miraculous things, and I'm going to say, depart from me, I never knew you.